A careful reading of the texts will provide us with some differences between the Bavli and the Yerushalmi in their respective views regarding the textual basis in placing the mitzvah of pidyon upon the child, but, for technical reasons, one that is temporarily transferred to the father for its implementation. In the case of the Bavli, to Sefer Bamidbar, and in the case of the Yerushalmi, to Sefer Shemot. In Sefer Shemot, the emphasis is upon the father to undertake the pidyon haben. V'chol b'chor banai efteh. I am obligated to redeem every firstborn from amongst my sons in the event that he has multiple wives. This is part of the explanation that the father gives to his children as to why he is required to fulfill the mitzvah of pidyon haben. The actual command is recorded 2 pasukim earlier, Shemot 13:13, V'chol b'chor adam bevanecha tifteh, once again, emphasizing the role of the father. Secondly, the mitzvah is linked to Yetziat Mitzrayim, as we see in the explanation that the father gives to his children, Vayaharog Hashem kol b'chor be'eretz Mitzrayim, that God, in extricating the Bnei Yisrael from the land of Egypt, killed all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, mi b'chor adam ve'ad b'chor behema, firstborn of man, firstborn of animals, al kain, and therefore ani zavech laHashem kol peta rechem hazacharim. The firstborn of animals are offered in sacrifice to Hashem, and the firstborn of my children, ifdeh, I redeem. This, in contrast to the pasukim regarding pidyon haben in Sefer Bamidbar, where there the focus is upon the actual mitzvah. Ach padot tifteh et bechor ha'adam. You, the nation, are required, obligated, to redeem the firstborn of man. No mention made of the father undertaking this redemption. Secondly, the mitzvah is not, as in the case of Sefer Shemot, connected to Yetziat Mitzrayim, but rather to the matnat kahuna. Kol peta rechem ba'adam u'b'behema yiyeh lecha. All firstborn amongst man and animal belong to you, the Kohanim. And thirdly, whereas in Sefer Shemot there seems to be an absence of details, in Bamidbar we have the time frame, miben chodesh tifteh, not before the child has lived for 30 days, and also the amount, kesef chameshet shkalim b'shekel hakodesh. So what we see is very different presentations of this mitzvah. The Yerushalmi, in focusing upon Sefer Shemot, emphasizes the role of the father and of Yetziat Mitzrayim, whereas the Talmud Bavli, in using pasukim from Sefer Bamidbar, we have the focus upon the actual mitzvah per se. The distinction between the Bavli and the Yerushalmi will be amplified as we undertake an explanation for the final segment of Masechet Pesachim that touches upon the brachot that are to be recited at the pidyon haben ceremony. There are 2 brachot associated with the mitzvah of pidyon haben. The first, Asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al pidyon haben. The second, Birchat Shehecheyanu. It is the second bracha, the Shehecheyanu, that is the focus of the very last segment of Masechet Pesachim. In that segment, the Gemara records that Rab Simlai was a participant at a pidyon haben, at which time, Ba'u Minei, he was presented with a question as to who makes the bracha of Shehecheyanu. Is it the Kohen or is it the father? And an argument can be presented justifying each of the options. Kohen mevarech, we could argue that the Kohen should say the bracha of Shehecheyanu, the kamatei hana liyadei. With the pidyon haben, he is 5 slaim richer. Or avia ben mevarech, we might also argue that the father of the child says the bracha of Shehecheyanu, to ka'aved mitzvah, because in reality he is the one who is fulfilling the mitzvah. Without the father, the Kohen would not receive the 5 slaim. I guess Rab Simlai thought about the issue, but lo hava bidei. He was not able to give a response as to who says the bracha of Shehecheyanu, which led him to then atal sha'el bei midrasha. He posed the question at the bet midrash, to which the response was avia ben mevarech shtayim. The father of the child makes 2 brachot, 1 al pidyon haben, and 2 the bracha of Shehecheyanu. Masech Pesachim concludes with a halacha. V'hilchata is that avi haben mevarech shtayim, that the father makes both brachot. So what we have had here is 2 options with respect to the bracha of Shehecheyanu at a pidyon haben. One position argued that it should be recited by the Kohen on account of the 5 Slaim, the other that it should be recited by the father because he is the one fulfilling the mitzvah. The decision is that the Shechianu Bracha is recited by the father. The Rebbe in the SICHAH will now proceed to deconstruct the final text from Masechet Pesachim.